that from a slap, a kick, a shove, an intimidation, that amounts to a form of violence. So it's for a particular person. If such instances happen, take action to identify that this is a situation that you need to take charge of. You are drunk, intoxicated. The first thing, you blame yourself, you put yourself in that situation to say, if it were not for this, I would not have undergone this. Your husband can rape you. Your father cannot defile. Your uncle cannot rape a child. Women who work in commercial sex worker deserve to be raped.
Hello guys, welcome to the Vibe Tribe podcast. My name is Tara Nicole, and today I am joined by a very beautiful guest, and I will let her introduce herself.
Thank you. My name is Leticia Mwavishi. I'm an advocate here at Fida Kenya.
Okay, so today we're here at Fida because we are doing an episode on elimination of violence against women. November 25th will be the International Day set by the UN against elimination of violence against women. So FIDA do that, and that's why we're here today. So Leticia, nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little about FIDA, what you guys do, and who it can help, who might be listening?
Thank you. As I mentioned, my name is Leticia, and I'm an advocate. I work at the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA Kenya, as you've mentioned. FIDA is a women's rights organization. We basically offer free legal advice to our clientele, which is mostly women and girls. Our vision is to have a society that is just for women and girls within the Kenyan sphere. We do this under two programs, that is Access to Justice and Women and Girls. Our vision is to empower, recognize, and protect, promote the rights of women and girls within the Kenyan sphere, both here in Kenya, regionally, and even internationally. How we work, as I've mentioned, we offer free legal advice to women who come to our offices to seek this kind of services. So how it happens, I've mentioned we have two programs. That one is called Access to Justice. And Access to Justice, this is whereby we focus mainly on creating awareness, on just telling our clientele about their rights and how to access justice in terms of the issues that they have. Yeah. We offer free legal advice to women who come to our offices. Just to mention, we have three offices. Nairobi is the headquarters, and it's located at Amboseli Road. Then we have another office in Kisumu that serves offices within the Western and the Nyanza region. And then we have the Mombasa, which serves the 6 counties within the Coast region. How we work with partners, we work with community-based organizations in terms of how to outreach clients and how to just tell the community on what we do. Once a client walks into our office, we listen to them. Since we are, we are a legal institution, we offer advice depending on the issue that they have. If it's something that is within our mandate, mostly we handle family matters and criminal matters. Under criminal matters, we give psychosocial support. We try to assist clients who are going through the justice system to just understand those processes and to just give them that moral support. And then, yes, once now client comes into our office, we identify what issues they have. We are able now to address and assess how to best provide legal aid services. So that is basically what we do. In the community, we work with the community in terms of just creating that awareness about what the law says in terms of your rights. How to access your rights, how to access, let's say if it's public institutions that maybe you need assistance from, we are able to assist you in terms of knowing how to start that process. So yes, that basically is what our FIDA does. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that was quite insightful. I didn't know you guys had like two different organizations under FIDA. So what are can you mention one of the cases that you guys have dealt with, or you personally, and how you were able to help the victim?
In reference to now the question of now victim, they fall under categories of issues to do around violence. So for violence categories very many things. It's not just one way. Yeah. Sometimes you can even find violence in children and cases. You can find violence in succession issues. You can find violence in land and property issues. So violence cuts across in different ways when it comes to our clientele. So basically, I'll just start with the matters that we handle. Like I mentioned, we mostly handle family matters. This includes children, issues to do with divorce, issues to do with marriage, issues to do with succession and inheritance, issues to do with land and property, issues to do with division of matrimonial property. So basically, those are some of the issues that we handle. As I even mentioned earlier, that once a client comes into our office, we're able to assess if, let's say, if it's a children's matter, we advise on how to go about it. Mostly, we recommend mediation to take place, especially in family issues that we see it's best to be resolved through mediation. Once they go through mediation, they're able to come out with an agreement that enables them to have that communication and co-parenting amongst themselves. The same, of course, divorce, we are not yet there to have mediation and all that, but yes, we advise the clients on their rights of being married, outside married, and how to go about it. Now, in issues around violence, where now we have a victim survivor, this is where, for example, if someone has been violated, they walk into our office and they want to be assisted. First, we'll just inform them of their rights in terms of seeking access to justice, in terms of reporting to the police, going to the hospital to be treated, and now following up the process in terms of going to court. So how FIDA does it is we try to establish first if someone has reported, we ensure that you've at least accessed some form of either treatment, depending on the violence that you've been inflicted upon. If it's physical, definitely we rather guide you, rather inform you. You first have to visit the hospital to be checked to ensure that everything is okay. If, let's say, if the violence is not that severe, then we guide you to tell you to go to police station to make a report. Then at the police station, we at least inform you that you're supposed to be given an OB, that is the occurrence book number that just informs you that you've made a report at this police station. So now it is easy now to follow up. So once you've done that, then we try now to follow up the process from there up to the time now this person has been arrested, investigations have been done, they've been brought to court, answered charges, the trial process is ongoing. So basically that is what we do. And then in between, we also do take note that sometimes violence takes the mental aspect of the victim survivor. Yeah. So what we do, we engage such persons through our psychosocial support, which we have internally, to at least give them that moral support or companion support as they go through this process. Because, and maybe in your, you can sometimes it's say that violence that has been inflicted on someone, the trauma doesn't end at one stop. It reoccurs and reoccurs. So it's very critical and important to ensure that this person has both psychological and moral support as they will go in this process of accessing justice.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes.
So I think you've just answered. My next question was going to be, is abuse just physical?
Not quite. Right now, and I'll start with what the legal framework that you have when it comes to understanding what violence is. We have 5 types of violence that has been identified in our legislations. We have physical violence, that is one most that is seen to be one form of violence. Of course, we have, it can occur in different ways. Physical, so long as you've used your body, you've used an item to inflict harm or pain to someone, that or not it's termed as physical violence. And then we have sexual violence. This is where now it's violence perpetrated against someone's not willing to participate sexually. So we have instances like rape, defilement, sexual assault, sexual harassment, indecent act. Those are some of the issues around sexual violence. Then we have emotional violence. You might not be physically being violated, you might not be sexually violated, but there's a way someone can use words to actually cause harm or threat to your life. Yeah. So you find like someone tells you, I will kill you, or maybe says, I'm going to burn you alive. They're just issuing threats or intimidation, or just stalking you around. So that one can also call, it's called emotional or psychological violence. Then we have economic violence, which sometimes lots of many people know about it, because in terms of also reporting, we don't have that structure of how to handle economic violence. But economic violence occurs in a way that someone has power over you, they control your willingness to provide for yourself, or rather to earn something for yourself.
Yeah.
So you find instances like you're being forced not to go to work, or you're being forced to be a stay-home person, or you're being denied. Yes, you're working, but you're being told that the income that you get, or the salary that you get, or any benefit that you get, you bring it all to me so that I handle it. So that one is one form of economic violence. And then you have harmful practices. We do understand that in Kenya, we are inclined to our cultures, in different cultures that we have. So there are some cultures that identify us as belonging to this culture.
Yeah.
So under harmful cultural practices, we have those cultural practices that have been deemed to be harmful. We have instances like female genital mutilation, we have child marriages, we have various instances of harmful practices that have been identified to be a form of violence, and mostly against women, because we see that culture, when it comes to women, it is more discriminatory to women than it is to men. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, so you said physical, sexual, economic, cultural, and
Emotional.
emotional.
Yes.
Okay.
And for cultural, it's harmful. Not all cultural practices are deemed to be violent,
Yeah.
but the harmful aspect has to be there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So violence, like everything else, I suppose, is a process.
Yes.
So how does it typically start? Or like what are some of the red flags somebody can point out and be like, this is where it's not feeling right? Because we all have that feeling. It's
Yeah.
like I'm not quite feeling okay, but I can't quite say this is violence yet.
Yeah.
So what are some of the red flags you've seen from victims throughout your time here?
Victims are different. Victim survivors are different. There are instances you'll find violence will occur from the first time you meet the perpetrator or the person who harms you. The instances, it's gradual. It just happens. Maybe someone is triggered out of something, or it's just in their nature. So there's really no way you can structure and say that violence, these are the signs that you need to be aware of, so that you know that you're in a violent situation. One thing is what maybe I can just give out as an experience we have seen, or rather how we create our awareness, is for someone to be aware. The issue around physical violence, for example, I'll give you an example of, there's a case which was decided in 2020. It's called State versus Trufena. In this case, the courts were able to identify that from a slap, a kick, a shove, an intimidation, that amounts to a form of violence. So it's for a particular person. If such instances happen, take action to identify that this is a situation that you need to take charge of. Of course, sometimes you've had instances someone might do it as a mistake, but it's for an individual to be aware that this might actually be a problem, and take that action in terms of how to address it. Because sometimes you find violence also, it builds up. It might be occurring at once, and then that person never offends you. It might be a mistake, it might be maybe in form of a punishment, but it's for that person to be aware that this is a form of violence and I need to take action. You can comfort the person to just tell them that what action has been taken, you've not been okay with it. And if you feel that this person is not really responding, then one thing we also do advise is just to walk away. Try to find either a mutual person who can even intervene to try and assess the situation, so that you don't undermine the violence that has undergone or has undertaken, and then it escalates now to something bigger because of just that misstep. Yes, yes.
So punishment, children punishment. So as when we were in school, we used to be beaten like kuchapwa, serious.
Yeah.
So what's the line between punishment, either by parents or teachers, and violence?
Now, up to, I can't remember exactly when, children being beaten in school was deemed not right, let me say unlawful, because you could find that sometimes teachers beat children to a form, it's like a form of torture. So it's not really about punishment, it's just about now causing harm.
Yeah.
There's a form of punishment, even for me. Yes, I was punished when I was in school, but how it comes out is punishment, especially when it comes to children. It doesn't have to be that severe that this child ends up in hospital to a point that they can't also concentrate in school because you've beat them so severely that their mental, psychological, emotion sense is not balanced. So, in terms of punishment, to some extent, it is a form of violence because, as you do understand, also children have rights. And in order for you to guide, you don't have to physically inflict pain for you to guide. There are various ways that you can take a step. As much as we try to incline to what the Bible says, spoil the child, spare the rod, spoil the child. Sometimes we've seen as to how that extent of punishment in terms of physical beating the child is actually a form of violence. So what now we are advocating, or rather we are pushing for, is to try and find alternatives way of punishing a child. And beating should be the last resort. And if you're beating, it shouldn't be excessive. You know, there's a way that you can beat someone excessively and it actually causes more harm and pain than the intended need of just punishing and correcting. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in case somebody has found themselves in a violent situation, what are some of the coping mechanisms that you've seen with victims? Yeah, that you like in this box and you're trying to cope. So I'm sure that some people watching who may be in an abusive relationship. How are some of the mechanisms you've seen people use to cope?
First, even without even coping, we tend to see a lot of stigmatization, a lot of victim blaming. Because sometimes you find, for example, if you are drunk, intoxicated, the first thing you blame yourself, you put yourself in that situation to say, if it were not for this, I would not have undergone this. You find a lot of stigmatization depending on maybe the age you are, the type of person you are, the way you dress. So you find already that there's that profiling of because you're this way, you deserved to either be violated or something to be abused. So the coping mechanism that sometimes you find is people tend not to report. They tried to hide it within themselves, to deal with it themselves, to avoid that stigma. Because, like I mentioned, one thing about violence, it inflicts, it happens to you in so many different ways, and how it transforms. Physical violence can actually even turn into emotional violence in a way that you feel embarrassed. Let's say, for example, if you're a woman of some stature, and then you go out there, you say now you've been beaten, there's a way the society will not take it as easy as you'd expect it. You'd be received either, you'll be judged, or rather you'll not be seen as to be saying something true. So now in terms of coping, you find most victim survivors, they don't report. And then you also have now the perception of how these issues are handled. So you find people now tend to shy away from even taking action. And then when now it becomes now overbearing is when now someone comes out when it's a bit too late to actually now even offer some sort of assistance. So now in terms of that not reporting, just keeping it in themselves, is some of the mechanisms that victim survivors use to just try and manage, which of course is not healthy because it tends to pile up. Because if something has been happening to you and you don't have that opportunity to say what happened, maybe even get justice, in some victims and survivors we have seen, it crops up to be something now emotional violence that even leads them to be depressed and even suicidal. Yes.
Okay. So, what are some of the, you talked about perceptions, what are some of the common misconceptions that are there in the public about violence against women?
There's so many. Your husband can beat you, your husband can rape you, your father cannot defile, your uncle cannot rape a child. women who work in commercial sex worker deserve to be raped. Those are some of the perceptions. You get to hear the way you dress, you provoke a man to beat you. You find perceptions such as it's an African thing for a man to discipline their wife. So that's some of the perceptions that we deal with when it comes to just engaging with our clientele or even engaging with just the community, that they have built up in a way that also violence is not seen as severe, especially when it comes to physical violence. There's even a documentary I saw some time back when men in the village were being asked, even women, they're just being asked something to do around physical violence. And the response was that it's an African thing to discipline your wife. It means you love her. Then you find also some women say that if a man doesn't discipline you, they don't love you. So it's just a system and a perception that has been built around, which we try every day to demystify that violence is wrong. No one deserves to be violated, to be tortured, to be subjected to any form of violence, whether in private or in public.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you find yourself in such a situation, toxic relationship, abusive relationship,
Yeah.
how would you advise them to maneuver out of it?
One, and the most important thing is if you're in a position to walk away, please do walk away. If you're in a position to walk away, walk away. Get help. Any form of violence is a crime. Report to a police station. And it's also good, sometimes you also tell, it's not really an effective method to speak out, because you see, it depends with who also you speak to. Because some people you might tell them, they might be not as receptive as you expect to help them. But you do normally tell people to tell a friend, tell a family person to at least be their companion, to understand what they're going through, so that even if you're going to report, you're not reporting by yourself. If you're going through the hospital, you're not by yourself. And then seek out for organizations such as FIDA that can help you through the process. If it's in terms of reporting, you might not really know where to report, or maybe you might go to report and you may not find that comfort in going through the report. So we can assist you in terms of just telling you how the process goes, and just managing as you go through this process. Also, in terms of psychosocial support, that is also one thing that we really push when it comes to issues around sexual and gender-based violence. Because you see, once you've been violated, like I mentioned, it's not one way. When you go to the report to the police, you have to tell the story all over. They take your statement. When you go to court, you have to tell your story all over again. Then this person has to question you. Then the court has to assess whether it happened. Then when this person gets to be convicted, it actually says that yes, he violated me. So that is a whole lot of trauma that you have to deal with. So if you don't also get that mental support and family support to go through with it, it can actually be tormenting, and the justice that you envision might not really be the justice that you get. So those are some of the things that I can advise someone to do. But first one is to report. And if you've been violated either physically, sexually, go seek medical attention. That's the first thing, especially sexual violated, where someone maybe has not used protection. Go seek medical protection to at least protect yourselves from unknown things that might happen. And then if it's also physical, just go, because there's also issue around in terms of collecting just evidence. You have to also be timely. If you're not too sure, you can reach out to either a friend to just give you that support on how to go about it.
Okay.
Yes.
So if anyone wants to contact FIDA, how would they get in touch with you guys?
So we have our toll-free number. We have a toll-free number, and each office has their own number, but the toll-free is easy for us to get it. It's 0800 720 501. So for that one, any concerns about sexual, gender-based violence, they reach out to us, and then we can be able to assist from our different offices.
Okay.
Yes.
So abuse, as you've said, doesn't just end after a relationship, right? There's definitely trauma after.
Yes.
What are the steps to healing after you've left the relationship, you're looking for help? How would you, what are the steps to complete and total healing?
It really depends because sometimes you also have victim survivors that you find someone was convicted 10 years ago, but it's a reminder. So for healing, it all depends with how the individual has embraced the healing journey.
Yeah.
Because you see, like I've mentioned, you see this person being convicted, it's a reminder. Him being there locked up, it's a reminder that he actually did that thing to you.
Sure.
So every year, if this person marks, and then you also have to deal with the fact that if he gets out, then it's like you're now starting again. So healing, it's more of a journey, like we can see. And in each journey, you have to know how to deal with it in each step. So, and that's why I'm constantly just insisting on that psychosocial support. Because with that kind of professionalism that you're given under psychosocial, it gives you the tool to manage. Because sometimes you can be in your healing journey in your 10th year and something triggers you.
Yeah.
Then you start now recollecting everything that happened. And if the form of violence was a bit violent, for example, when it comes to FGM, if you hear stories of how it's done, when maybe you go, or rather you hear someone has gone in an FGM, it triggers you and you remember your experience or something like that. So healing for me and how I've seen our victim survivors, it's a journey that you have to boldly take into it because it doesn't end after years. It's like grief. If I can compare the same, they're not really similar, but something like grief, it doesn't just end.
You learn to live with it.
You learn to live with it. So that is what now the psychosocial program just tries to, not to forget, but to adapt and live with this, because it's not like you're starting afresh. It was part of you. It happened to you, but doesn't mean that it has to define you.
Yeah.
It just tells you that out of this, you have to just live, go on with your life, but now just try how to manage, because you might have triggers, something may just remind you, and then it becomes now a whole system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So victims, as you said, one of the misconceptions is some people think that they brought it upon themselves.
Yeah.
But we've said that is not the case.
It's not the case.
Definitely. But
Yes.
are there some steps one can take to make themselves less vulnerable to abuse?
As an individual, people are different. You see, and from our line of work, sometimes you can even find that you've been in a family setup that you've gone through trauma. There's a time we're even handling a client who even mentioned, like, for her, she learned being told wewe ni umbwa, or I hope I can say that. You're just being, like, words are being thrown at you. And for that, she understood that that was care. She didn't know that she was actually being abused and all that. So the same she has transferred to her children. She was being charged with child neglect. So she has transferred. So upon us understanding that it was historical trauma that built up now into being adult, is what now we try to understand in terms of coping. It is for someone to just be that aware. And how to just be that aware is to also just having that access of information. If in yourself you feel like, nah, something is not right, then it's upon you to just identify, do I need some sort of help? And you don't also need to just go for psychosocial support because you're not okay mentally or something like that. I believe there's some institutions, they can just assess their therapists, sometimes just have that conversation to understand who you are. Of course, even if it's not affordable, just for you to just come out and maybe even talk to a friend to just see if, is it something that is normal or something like that. And then we try to also avoid in terms of normalizing. If you see something has been done, don't normalize that it should be that way. Because when it comes to violence, it's just for that person to be aware. If you're slapped, it's upon you to just take that action and tell that someone that, no, what you've done has affected me and all that. If they don't remedy or something like that, then you'll be aware that this person, in terms of reforming, there's a next time that you might actually graduate from slapping to something else. So it's just that to be aware and to avoid self-blame. If it already happens, don't take it upon yourself to say, it happened because I did this,
Yeah.
or I created the environment for this to happen. It's just for you to take charge that no, this has happened to me, it is wrong, I did not play any role to it,
Yeah.
and just take action to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, is there any advice you'd give to our Vibe Tribe audience? It's basically a youth audience to navigating any abuse they might have faced, and to anybody facing abuse out there.
It's very timely, and rather, I'm sure everyone in the country is aware of the femicide cases it's happening, and mostly it's targeting young people within the youth bracket, especially the ones in school. Maybe the chunk of advice I can give is it's okay to walk away.
Yeah.
It is okay for you not to be loved or to love, especially not for men. It's okay to be heartbroken. So many of us have been heartbroken and we are still here.
Yeah.
It is okay for love to end. It is okay to just walk away. It is not okay to justify violence. It is not okay to create room for violence. It is not okay to be violated. That's one thing I also appreciate. Or maybe I'd put out. And take action. When something happens, seek help. It's not even, yes, we do, or rather, we do promote that for people to report to the police so that action can be taken.
Yeah.
But there are other ways you can seek some sort of support.
Yeah.
Get help. If it's within the school setup, get help. If it's within home, identify someone that you can trust and tell them what you're going through so that you don't have to deal with it alone.
Yeah.
And take everything as it comes. But for violence, it's zero tolerance. Do not condone, do not invite, do not baby with it, do not entertain, because the more you give room to any form of violence, you continue to consume. By the time it becomes a problem, you no longer have the mantle to handle it. So it's just be aware, don't condone violence, take action, and just be aware of yourself. Avoid victim blaming. Don't be blamed for something that you did not intend for it to happen to you. And don't entertain any form of violence. Be a friend, be a brother, be a sister. If you see someone is undergoing, take that initiative to at least even give them that support to take the necessary step.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Leticia, so much for coming on to the podcast. I will be putting the toll-free number on the screen and also in the description box below. You can send me your handles and I will also put them in the description box.
That's great.
Okay, so thank you so much, Leticia.
Thank you too.
And for any questions you may have, just leave them in the comment box below and I will have Leticia answer them. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.